Hi everyone, welcome. Today we're looking at adding and subtracting rational numbers from section 0-4. We have two learning targets today. First, I can add and subtract decimals correctly, and second, I can add and subtract fractions correctly. So these are the two things that we want to be pretty confident in when we get through with this lesson and through with your study on this subject. First, if decimals will have the same rules as integers did in terms of addition. So if we're adding two positive decimals, the result will be positive. If we're adding two negative decimals, the result will be negative. And if we're adding one negative and one positive decimal together, the largest absolute value will determine the sign. So looking at this third problem, we have negative 0.2 plus 0.3 equals 0.1. The reason it's a positive number is because the absolute value of 0.3 is greater than the absolute value of negative 0.2. And then we just combine those two numbers together. We know our result will be positive. And if you just take a negative 0.2 plus 0.3, that will be 0.1. Okay, for subtraction of decimals, the rules are also the same as they are with integers. So subtracting a negative is the same as adding a positive. So if we just look at the two examples here, we have 1.23 minus a negative 2.0 is the same as saying 1.23 plus 2, and that will actually be, I'm going to change this right here because I had a negative in front of that originally, but I'm going to change this right now to 1.23 plus 2 is going to be 3.23. And in the second case, I believe I had that one correct. Let's make sure. Negative 2.1 minus a negative 1.1 is the same as saying negative 2.1 plus 1.1, which will be negative 1.0. So now I think that slide looks a little better. And again, the key here is when you're subtracting a negative, it's really the same as adding a positive to the original number. In this case, now we're looking at fractions. Adding and subtracting fractions, we really have to do two things, two steps. First, we need to find a common denominator. We cannot add or subtract fractions until we get a common denominator. Now, there are lots of ways to find a common denominator. Really, one of the easier ways is to simply multiply the two numbers together that are in the denominators. So in this case, if we have 3/4 plus 1/3 equals something, we can simply multiply 4 times 3 together to get 12. So that's the denominator we'll use now for both of the terms, and we have to get an equivalent fraction. So what we do is, in this first case, we said that 4 times 3 equals 12. That's how we got this denominator of 12 right here and right here. So now what we have to do then, in this case, this number 3, since we want to keep the fraction equivalent, we will have to multiply that by 3 as well. So 3 times 3 gives us 9. So 9/12 is the equivalent fraction to 3/4. In the second one here, we have 1/3. To get from 1/3 to 12 here, this 3 to get to the 12, we multiplied by 4. So we have to multiply this 1 by 4 as well to keep the fractions equivalent. So now this would be 4/12. So now we have a common denominator, we have equivalent fractions. So we have 9/12 plus 4/12. The next step is simply add or subtract the numerators and keep the denominator the same as it is. So just following that rule, 9 plus 4 equals 13, and then 12 will remain our denominator. So in this case, that result will be 13/12. Okay, so now we've looked at these two learning targets, adding and subtracting decimals and adding and subtracting fractions. So we have some tools to be able to do that now. And I wish you good luck with your assignments on this, and I want to thank you very much for listening, and I'll look forward to seeing you in class very, very soon. Thanks a lot. Take care.